And welcome. It's AE Live. We are live. It is April 6th at 7 o'clock. Don't adjust your screens if my face looks red. I was outside too long. And I didn't wear any sunscreen. So shame on me. You can see the air. Let's see. Line. Anyways, so we are going to be talking about aerobatics tonight. But before we start with that, let's go ahead and take a look at. There we go. Hang on. Okay. First, we always start off with some housekeeping. So we've got a couple things for housekeeping tonight. Number one, last Friday we went ahead and I completed Chapter 2 of Module 1 for Aerospace Dimensions. That is specifically around gliders. Feel free to go ahead and take a look at that. Our next module, which is going to be on balloons, so that's going to be Chapter 3 of Module 1, that we're going to be doing live on Friday at 7 o'clock. So if you are free, nothing else going on, if you want to come hang out with us, please feel free to join us on Friday at 7 o'clock. Let's see here. That's all we had for housekeeping. So in the news, we had a couple of items. One, NASA unveiled this week their plans to continue on for Artemis for the base camp on the moon. So this is pretty exciting. So far in the moon, we went from just talking about people landing on the moon to a space station, small space station, the space station going around the moon. And now we're talking about going forward with an actual base on the moon. So all the science fiction books are slowly coming true. I hope they hurry up. I want to get to Mars. And that's actually what this is for. So this is to try to learn what they're going to be doing on the moon. This way, if there's a problem, it's easier to fix something or get astronauts back and forth if they need to. A lot easier than trying to get to Mars. So I'm going to try to use it as a learning experience. All right. Next thing we had was we had a failure, a testing failure actually, of SN3, which is the SpaceX's Starship, and they had depressurization, and it just collapsed on itself. So a lot of rockets, people don't realize this, but a lot of rockets inside of the pressure tank, because they're trying to save on weight, they have to keep it under pressure. And if it depressurizes too fast, the structure itself isn't strong enough to stand upright. It will actually collapse on itself, which is exactly what happened with SpaceX's Starship this week. We've actually seen this with ULA as well. The ULA actually had a rocket that was on the launch pad, and they had a decompression, and it fell over. Now this is an actual a test rig. So they already were building SN4. This was never going to go into space. They're just using it to test. And that actually brings up a good point, right? So learn by doing versus learn by researching. So SpaceX takes the effort of learn by doing. So it's okay to fail as long as nobody's at risk. They learn by those mistakes. And which is why you see so many of their early rockets crashing into the ocean, crashing into the ground. And so, if you look at some of the other companies like Blue Origin, which is being run by Jeff Bezos of Amazon, they're learning by researching, right? So they want to make sure all their tools are right. They want to make sure it may be at some point that Blue Origin catches up to SpaceX because they're spending a lot of money and they're doing a lot of work. But SpaceX is kind of like let's get our hands dirty and let's make it happen. So that was item number 2. Our last item for today, this was actually pretty exciting. The James Webb Space Telescope has been going forever. So this thing should have been launched a long time ago. But like most major scientific projects, one step forward, one step backwards, it seems like sometimes. We had a major milestone today. Or not today, but a couple days ago. For the very first time, they actually expanded the telescope to its full width. Using its onboard hydraulics and pistons. So basically, as you can see in the video below, they can't have the thing, they can't launch it at its full diameter because it will not fit in the fairing of the rocket. So they have to collapse it so it fits like a nice little package. It gets into space and then it's going to open up. Well, this week was the first time that they've actually tested that opening up fully, and they succeeded. So congrats to those folks. Okay. All right, so video of the week. So many of you have heard about the United States Air Force. You've heard of the Navy. You've heard of the Marines, probably the Navy. You've heard of the Coast Guard. You've heard of all these different agencies. Have you heard of the U.S. Space Force? Not Space Command, not SpaceX, but Space Force. That is our newest military branch, focused just on space. And this week, they actually had their very first launch, their very first mission. It is not the first time we've launched this satellite. This is the 6th iteration of the Advanced Extreme High Frequency Satellite. But this is the first time that we've had a mission under the Space Force umbrella. So what's cool about this rocket is it does two things. One, it can actually help if there's ever a nuclear attack. It has special defenses for a nuclear attack, as well as it has special anti-jamming capabilities. So if another foreign power tried to jam the satellite, it has ways to try to protect itself from that as well. So some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, this was neat because this was actually the very first Space Force mission. So congratulations to the Space Force. All right, let's see here. Hey, Selden, how are you? Senior members only. It was nice outside. Yeah, well, we have the cadets as well. The cadets will usually watch this show after we are live. Sometimes we will get 15 to 20 cadets. I'm not sure how many we have right now. All right, so our main lesson today is a relatively short one compared to the last couple of weeks. So it's on aerobatics. And so just like gymnastics, aerobatics has, we think of, air as being unlimited space. An airplane can go zigging and zagging through the air. But with aerobatics, they actually have their own contained space. I don't expect you to be able to read these numbers. We're going to have another slide that'll show you the numbers. But they have a mat. Just like the same way that there's a mat for gymnastics, there is an area for airplanes to fly in. As a matter of fact, if an airplane breaks that line, breaks the box, then they get a penalty. Just the same way that if a gymnastics person was stepping over the line at a gymnastics meet, they would take a penalty. There is judges, and there is an upper and lower limit. And if we look at the types of aircraft and the upper and lower limit, we can see primary and sportsman category. So if I was to go out and do any aerobatics for a show, I would be doing it as a primary and sportsman category. And as you can imagine, they want me a lot higher off the ground than they want somebody who really knows what they're doing. So for me, they would want me to be flying between 1,500 feet above the ground and 3,280 feet above the ground. Now, if you're really advanced, you could do it on the unlimited category. They go all the way to the bottom of the box is 328 feet. And they have a little bit higher altitude at 3,500 feet. So as you can see, the more advanced you are, the more they trust you, the lower you can go, and the more altitude they give you to do some crazy stuff. Now, the other thing I thought was interesting was that in aerobatics, there's a powered category, but there's also a glider category. So if you want to, spin and rotate and do loops in a glider, you are welcome to do so. I thought that was neat. So when we look at aerobatics, there is 5 general maneuvers that they will grade you on. The first is a loop. The second is a left slow roll. The third is inverted flight. The fourth is an Illman. And the fifth is a split S. Now, I actually forgot to bring something. 1 second. I'll be right back. Hold your thoughts. If you have any questions, write your questions down. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. All right, now what I wanted to grab is my little model of my A-wing fighter. We're going to use this as our demonstration. So a loop, goes up, goes over, and around like that. Left slow roll, just what it sounds like. Oh, as I break my my toy here. Left slow roll, it's going to roll around, but they're going to try to stay straight. Inverted, they just fly upside down. An Illman will come in straight. It'll do a half loop. And then when it gets to the top, usually when it's coming down to the 45, either straight or a 45, it'll flip back over. And the split S is basically the opposite of an Illman. You start off at the bottom. You start up high, you flip over, and then you come back around. I found a couple of videos online I thought that were pretty interesting. And so let's watch those real quick. So the first one's on the loop. And so the first one I thought was interesting. Thanks you, G-Shock and all. And Jeremy. So the very first thing I thought that was interesting is for those cadets that are taking your O-rides, ask your O-ride pilot if you can do a loop. If he says he can't do it because it's in a Cessna, watch this. All right, so there you can see you can do a loop in a Cessna. So maybe next time you do your O-ride, ask him to do a loop. So that was the first maneuver. The second one was a left slow roll.
Hold on one second. Okay.
All right, so we're rolling to the left. Here's that rudder I was telling you about.
Oh, yeah?
So, but now, if we get 90 degrees, we gotta push. Please, rudder in the opposite direction. So roll on out.
That just looks like fun to me. So, let's see. All right. As he said, that's the slow roll. The next one we had was an inverted flight. I love this one. This is my favorite video of the day. I have no idea what they're flying. But look what's about to happen. He's upside down on an airplane and he proposes to her. I'd be afraid of dropping the ring. Well, I guess if she didn't say yes, he was never ever gonna, roll the aircraft back upright again. But she said yes, and so here they come again. And listen, if you can propose to somebody and they say yes while you're upside down on an airplane, I think you found the right person. So congratulations to them. All right, next thing we had was an Illman. And again, this is kind of like a half loop. But we're going to do it with...
Here we go. It's going to be just like a loop. But I want to stop it upside down. Here we go. Up we go. Tilt your head straight back, looking for Mount Rainier. Here it comes. Yep, there she is. So I set the line, and now I roll us upright. Lots of rudder and aileron, and hold us so we don't sink. Woo-hoo. Woo. I bobbled a little bit there, but see, we're back at 80 knots at the top there. The last thing you said, hold us so we don't...
Okay, so that was that. Now we're going to do a split S. This is like the opposite of an Illman. And there he goes, rolling out the bottom. Man, I tell you, I don't know if it's just because I'm a little bit older, but I still fancy the F-16 fighter planes, the Fighting Falcons. I just think that they're just the prettiest things in the air. Really, really enjoy them. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the actual aircraft themselves. So it's really important to go back to Newton's laws. We talk about the three laws, and usually we're talking about the third one. For every action, action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The second one doesn't get talked about as much. So the second one being that, force equals mass times acceleration, basically. So it's really important when we talk about, aerobatics, because what, you're talking about, you're taking an airplane, which weighs a lot, relatively. And so the weight is your mass. and you're moving it constantly, one direction to another, one direction to another. This is also true if you're in a dogfight. If you're in the Air Force and you get yourself into a dogfight, you want to conserve your energy. You want to conserve that force. Only C-152 aerobatic and proper weight limits and must wear parachutes. Also against cap regs to do a loop in cap airplanes. Oh, Seldon's just no fun. Some people got to ruin the fun for everybody. You don't tell, I won't tell. So I'll bring my parachute, you bring yours. So it's really important to take a look at the forces required. And so the airplane, when it takes off, other than the fuel it's burning, is going to maintain the same weight. You're going to have the same mass, but you're going to constantly be changing the acceleration. And so force is really important. So you want to take a look at what you can control on the ground. So one of the things you want to do is you want to look at mass. So what does that mean? So are you going to be doing aerobatics with a B-17 bomber? Probably not. There's a lot of mass there. The engines, you have 4 big engines, but those engines aren't that much more powerful than what that airplane needs just to get into the air. And so when you take a look at your aerobatic aircraft, we're going to be looking at a couple things. One, you're going to be looking at airplanes that are relatively small. You're going to also be looking at airplanes that, for their size, have small wings. And because they have small wings, they require more thrust. And so that means they're going to have more power. They're going to have more engine, a bigger engine. And so I picked 5 aircraft that are really popular in the world of aerobatics. And I want you to take a look at a couple things. So one, this is a 2-seater aircraft. So the Sukhoi Su-29 is a 2-seater. They do make a 1-seater version of this, but a lot of times these aerobatic planes will actually have 2 seats if they're not in competition. And the reason for that is they will usually take somebody in the back seat. They'll either be there for training, teaching somebody how to do aerobatics, which is how these teams get a lot of their money, right? They charge a lot of money for you to go learn how to do aerobatics with them. And so they have to have airplanes to do that. They'll also take up news media. Unfortunately for me, I am too tall. I agree, Orville. I go to Oshkosh quite a bit. And every year I'm always trying to talk somebody into letting me go up with them. And unfortunately, I am too big. So I'm 6'8", so I do not fit in these things. These are usually small pilot airplanes. The other thing I want you to take a look at is the wing. The wing relative is pretty small. We're going to come back to the wing in a second. The second aircraft here is the Extreme XA-41. This is becoming a more popular aircraft. This is becoming very popular in Europe. Here you can see again, this is a single pilot aircraft. It looks very small. It is very small. You can see, almost the first half of the airplane is all engine. Again, going back to the whole idea of it needing a lot of thrust. And then if we go to the Edge 540, the Edge 540 is becoming very popular here in the United States. It is one of the primary airplanes used by the Red Bull team. And so there you'll see this airplane has a little bit more of a bigger back fuselage. It also has some wing tips on them to help with the drag caused by wingtip vortices, which we've talked about before. Now we're going to go next. We're going to go to one of my favorite airplanes, and that's the Pitt. I am absolutely in love with this airplane. I've always loved biplanes. I love the look of biplanes. The one thing I want to point out here, though, is really take a look at the edge of that wing. So usually when we talk about an airfoil, we talk about something that's relatively flat on the bottom and relatively rounded on the top. The roundness on the top, one, helps the pressure, Bernoulli's principle, as well as the Quinata effect, which causes downdraft. The downdraft helps the lift. And those two things combined is the majority of the lift that a wing will get. But if you'll notice that the edge of this wing, it's rounded on the top and bottom. And the reason for that, well, I'll give you 10 seconds. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that it would be rounded on the top and the bottom? What's important about that? Yeah, you guys are right. Well, this airplane is designed to fly upside down. It needs to fly inverted. That's one of the maneuvers it has to do well. And so you don't want to create a lot of lift based on the profile of the wing because you want to be able to go upside down. And if you had a lot of lift, you would have to keep the nose really high. This is what you would have to do in a Cessna. You'd have to keep the nose really angled to try, to create enough downdraft off that wing, off the flat side of the wing. Because the round side would be negating. So you would have gravity and you have Bernoulli's principle pulling you down, and then you would have the downdraft as one of your only main ways of pointing you up, as well as the thrust. And so they make so the wings are designed so that they are rounded on the top and bottom. Okay. And then this is kind of like the holy grail for aviation. For this airplane's been used by almost not all of, but a good number of the national champions. And this is the Extra 330. I can tell you, I had as a joke one time at Oshkosh, I tried sitting in one of these. I couldn't even bend my knees. These planes are designed for shorter people. So people like me, we get to gloat when we're on the basketball court. But the folks that are a little bit shorter, you get to have fun in these airplanes, and we can't. So I'm jealous of you. So that is some of the main things. Again, if you look at the airplane here, it's almost got that P-51, fighter look to it. Very large engine in the front. It's got a little bit of a sweep on the front edge of the wing. Not a lot, but just a little bit. You see a little bit of a diamond formation for the tail. Very, very sleek. It just looks fast. So these things have to be able to limit the drag, right? So when we talk about things that you can control the weight, the mass of the aircraft. You can control drag to a point. You can make them, slip through the air better. You can control thrust, and you can control lift, right? So those are the four forces that you can control. So make the aircraft light, make it slip through the air, give it a big engine, and give the thing some lift. Okay. Like I said, this was actually going to be. We have a little bit longer video here at the end here. I have a 7-minute video from Oshkosh from a lady named Patty Wagstaff. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat window now. I'll try to answer them while we're watching this 7-minute video. And then again on Friday, we will be doing a lesson on balloons from the Aerospace Dimensions. So go ahead and ask any questions you have while we're watching this video. One thing I want to point out about Patty Wagstaff in this video. So this video was taken in 2018. So this is just about year and a half old, almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years, I think, in August. Hopefully we have. I really hope we have Oshkosh this year. It's just a fantastic thing. And you, if you're a cadet or if you're a senior member too, if you're a member of CAP, you can go. They have an encampment at Oshkosh, a very large encampment too. They really do help with the area. I know I haven't done it since I've been in South Carolina, but when I was up in New York, it was about a 7-hour flight for me. I had to fly across Canadian airspace, which was a lot of fun. And we, a lot of the cadets, other pilots, they're the ones that help guide you to your parking spot. And then you literally sleep under your wing. You camp out under your wing. So, which is pretty neat. So let's go ahead and watch this video. And while we're watching, any questions, I'll answer those. And if not, we will see you on Friday or next Monday. Have a great week if I don't talk to you. Thank you. Holy cow, I totally forgot about the hands-on lesson. I was so excited to talk about Patty Wagstaff. All right, we actually do have a hands-on lesson. I forgot about that. So because we're talking about basically gymnastics, but with an airplane, I want to talk about angular momentum. So if any of you have ever seen a figure skater and they will bring their arms out and they'll start to spin in a circle and they'll bring their arms in and they'll get as tight as they can get and they get faster and faster and faster. That is done with the law of conservation of angular momentum. So I actually had a hands-on experiment for you guys to do at home. Selden, I'd like to see you do this on video. I'd like a copy of this. And what you can do is if you have like a bar stool or some type of a stool that the seat rotates, what you can do is take a weight. It's not too heavy. You don't want to hurt somebody or hurt yourself, but take some weight into your arms, and then put your arms straight out, and then have somebody spin you. And as you're spinning, go ahead and start bringing the weights in closer and closer and closer. You should see, as long as the friction on the seat isn't slowing you down too much, you should see that you're speeding up. The other thing I like to do with this is And please be careful. Don't get yourself hurt doing this. I can say that I have slipped every once or twice doing this myself. So wear some socks, kind of slippery socks, and find an area of your floor that is smooth. So the hardwood floors would work out great for this. Linoleum floor would work out good for this as well. Make sure there's nothing around you so that if you do slip and fall, you don't hit yourself on something. You may even want to have a friend there to catch you if you slip. But don't put weights in your hands, but put your arms out to your side, and then try to, if you're a righty, if you write with your right hand, do this on your right heel, not the right toe, not the toe of your foot, but the heel of your foot. So your toes will be up in the air. And then if you're a righty, do it on your right foot. If you're a lefty, do it on your left foot. And then you'll spin, and then do a spin on your heel. And basically, you can do almost exactly the same way that an ice skater will do. You can do on your heel. And then try it with your arms out. And then as you start spinning, start bringing your arms in, and you'll see yourself getting faster and faster and faster. I used to do this all the time, so I really enjoyed doing that. So anyway, so that's your hands on. Now let's get at Patty Wagstaff. All right. And again, one thing I want to point out here is Patty Wagstaff. Let me just mute for a second. So Patty Wagstaff, in this video, 2018, she is 66 years old. So don't ever say that age holds you back. Selden, I think that you could still do this. I think Patty Wagstaff is much older than you are. So I look forward to seeing you in an aerobatic airplane. Let's go ahead and watch her. I'll be looking for any here. Yeah, definitely. How you deal with dizziness is definitely an important point. And I will say that when I was younger in college, I'll let people know in something CAP, I don't think I told a lot of people, I was actually a pairs figure skater. I actually spent a lot of time doing pairs figure skating. You find that, for figure skaters, it's almost like this, where most figure skaters are like gymnastics. They're very short, they're very small, they don't have a lot of weight, so it's easier to move around. But you find with the pairs figure skaters, we're the exact opposite. So we are like the male cheerleaders. We're the ones who have to throw people, and so you find that the men for the figure skaters, the pairs figure skaters, are really tall. Usually 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". I'm about 6'8". And so so one of the first things you learn is when you're doing figure skating, is you're spinning so much. Is how to keep a constant gaze, something to look at to help with that dizziness. Some of it's just doing it, doing it over and over again and getting used to it. So that was a good point, sir.
It's simply the right thing to do. For more information, actually visit the website www.pattywagstaff.com. Check your hand and check your lights. Sometimes setting us up to somewhere and keeping the light. It's messing up the airboss frequency that we would like to alleviate that issue. So please, if you're listening to airboss, check your light on your handheld to make sure you're not stuck.
Oh, that's interesting, Selden. Man, that'd be great. Hey, Orville, one thing I noticed, your comment above. So you said about the competitions overseen. So there's a group called, I'm not sure if they oversee them, but the group that runs most of them is called the IAC, International Aerobatic. I'm not sure. Good luck. I should know this. I almost bought a shirt of theirs today because they have a really nice looking red shirt. Let's see here. IAC. Well, I found out that IAC also stands for an internet company. Let's try Aerobatics. Yeah, International Aerobatic Club. So that is the main club. Now, there might be a federal organization that helps run the actual tests and the competitions, but IAC is the one that I'm always used to hearing about. Look how low she gets upside down. That's crazy. And as you watch this, look at all the maneuvers. You talked about the 5 different maneuvers, and you can really break this down, right? There's a slow roll. Now, a lot of times you will get maneuvers added on top of each other. It's an airplane. It only moves so many different ways when you're in the air. So, again, here she's coming down. Let's see what she does here. All right, she's going up. All right, so she did an Illman, and then as soon as she went straight, she started doing a roll, but not a slow roll. She's doing a snap roll, but it's still a roll. Now notice she's actually making a circle in the sky while she's doing this. Again, she has to stay inside a box. So she can't just go straight and straight and straight because she'll leave the box. Now this is obviously for an air show and not a competition because she is way lower than the, whatever it was, 200 something feet, which is the bottom of the box. She's 20, 30 feet there. So they have to have some level of safety. I think we're about it. Yep. So Selden, what do you think? Can you still get that Citabria, and you and I can go do some aerobatics? What do you think? I think we should do it. That could be part of our AEO tryouts. Anybody that wants to be an AEO has to do aerobatics. What is your G limit? Like a 1.01. So for those of you that don't know, so a G limit is how many times the force of gravity pushing against you. So these aerobatic pilots, they're pushing 8, 9, 10 Gs. A fighter pilot in a full head-on curve will pull about the same, about 7 or 8 Gs. I think, somebody correct me on here, I don't know what it is, but I think it's like you can pull like a 3.4 G in a Cessna, under normal circumstances. And a normal turn, you're pulling about a 1.4, 1.6 G. And so those Gs really nail you if you're not used to them. I remember the first time I pulled a 60-degree tight turn, which is really a light G rating compared to what these folks are doing. And it really shocked me at how much it was pushing me back in my seat. And again, I'm a 6'8" guy. I'm a big guy. So I was worried that the seat was going to break under me. But so yes, that was good. So Orville, I checked their site, and they do the event under FAI oversight. This means that they have to abide by WADA drug testing, so that's the point of DDR instruction. And Selden wrote, that was in D.C., an instructor-owned airplane. She weighed about 85 pounds. Yeah. Listen, I'm happy being my size. I wouldn't give it up. But, man, I wish, gliders and aerobatic aircraft are two things I would love to be able to just go crank on. But just can't do it at my size. All right. Well, with that, we are done for today. Again, we were a little bit shorter today, so thanks everybody for coming out that saw us live. I said we got about 15 people or so that saw us live. I've been seeing that we usually will get about another 80 to 100 people that will watch the show during the week. So it looks like most folks will watch this afterward. So thank you for those of you that spent time. And again, on Friday, we will be doing at 7 o'clock. We will be doing a live class for Chapter 3 3 of Aerospace Dimensions Book 1, which is on balloons. Should be a fun one. So with that, thank everybody for coming out, and stay safe out there. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.